Two guests who know their way around the Chinese and incidents in the Recto Bank will join us. Let's get to know them more.
A geopolitical analyst, George C. has been an international trade and policy advisor since the Ramos regime. Alberto Encomienda is a veteran diplomat who specializes in the country's maritime and ocean affairs. A retired ambassador, Encomienda was appointed in Greece, Malaysia, and Singapore. He earned his master's degree on conflict of laws from Columbia University in New York and has attended various seminars in the international law from UN and Hague.
Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Please help us out how to figure all of this, because from where I'm sitting, I'm getting the impression that the government correctly tried to downplay everything. But the problem was there were too many cooks that spoiled the broth. There was a cabinet cluster, there were 5 cabinet members individually giving statements, making tweets, giving interviews. And before you know it, what was supposed to be an incident between fishing vessels has now brought up the Mutual Defense Treaty, bullying, etc. So perhaps I can start with you, Ambassador. What is your take, or how do you assess this entire situation?
Well, what I would say is, from the diplomatic point of view, everything has been, shall we say, put off kilter by these so many comments from, if I may say so, politicians' situation and how confused it is. On the other hand, President Duterte said it also, for me, correctly and very nicely, what the situation is all about and why he cannot respond at this time. 10 days after the event or incident or accident, whether it is a lesion or collision, no investigation has even begun, but a lot of condemnation has happened. For me, it's telling this, another aspect of the situation there. There were Vietnamese fishermen that rescued them in the dead of night. How would the ship captain be able to tell the nationality of the vessel that supposedly rammed them, whether it has... what I'm trying to say is, the way the narrative goes, the only other party is China. Whereas it is clear that there are a lot of nationalities fishing there. That's one thing. And again, from where it came from, and handling this as a diplomatic issue, I'm just surprised that the Secretary of National Defense immediately came into the picture when this is, I think, nowhere near a security matter. And then he even proposed diplomatic steps like protests immediately without any benefit of investigation, including a possible breaking up of diplomatic relations. My God. Breaking off of diplomatic relations is the highest,
But is this, George, a simple... Because, from where the ambassador is coming from, your points of reference is diplomatic practice.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, but we seem to... What we also need to bring into the picture, George, is the fact that we've had a long history of sama ng loob or grumblings regarding bullying, so many boats surrounding the reed bank, etc. There's a lot of pent-up emotion and frustration, and perhaps that's where the Secretary of Defense was coming from. He understands the sentiments on the ground, and he also understands that, well, we need to be seen doing something. But the question, George, is who should have done something about this?
Well, first of all, we want to convey our sympathies to the fisher folk because it's understandable, it's a harrowing experience, and really there should have been some kind of attempt to rescue if they were, in danger and in the water. However, it has already happened, and although we don't know the details exactly, we know the general details which China has admitted and what the points of convergence are. May I just point out that the Filipino-Chinese chambers, in solidarity with our countrymen, have offered to take care of rehabilitation of the boat and sustenance of the farmers' families.
Bravo,
And,
bravo. You know why I'm saying this, Ambassador, why I'm clamping my hand? Because that has been my point the whole time. You know, if someone had just gone there with a sack of money and just said, okay, let's fix the boat here. In the meantime, here's your sustenance for the next month while your boat is being repaired. And then let's just move on, and then we'll deal with China. We will talk. We would not have this waste of time and energy and a lot of anger. But in any case, congratulations to the Federation.
I would like to say the PCCI also donated 1 million.
We'll go for a break, George.
Yes.
And when we come back, can you give us the details of that action? Yes. We'll pause for a short break. More discussion about the Recto Bank incident when Agenda returns. Okay, going back to you, George, I clapped and bravoed you because, for once, someone came up with the right approach or the right solution, because that's what is needed on the ground. Fishermen want to go fishing, need a boat, and you, who are the people behind that assistance?
Well, led by Henry Limbonlyong, the current president of the Federation, and I think the officers of the PCCI, separately, they had declared their intentions to assist both the personnel and on the ship repair levels. No?
Okay. Now, Ambassador, let's backtrack a little. You know, nagbanggaan sa dagat, now we're calling it an alision. Is there such a word?
Oh, yes. Okay. In fact, I cited two possible, use of terms that confuses the whole situation. First, immediately it was, the term collision was used, but as pointed out by Secretary Nograles, collision involves two moving boats.
Collision, two moving boats or two moving vehicles.
Yes, but alision, one is moving, the other one is not moving.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. When you say alision, is it actually the play of two words, accidental collision?
That didn't occur to me. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, because that, to me, I mean, the phrasing or that word in itself is suggesting accidental collision. And if you say it's an accidental collision, you're already passing judgment that it was an accident.
Yes. I limit myself to what happened in point of fact.
Yeah.
One was not moving, the other was moving.
Yeah.
And the terms used there in maritime language is alision. And, although, as I said, the first news was about a collision. That was the word used. But apparently now it is accepted it is an alision. The other thing really that this play of words sometimes cause confusion is the matter of maritime incident or a maritime accident.
Okay.
But as you pointed out, things seems to be getting clearer. It is a maritime accident, and it is an alision. But the thing is, we are going to that now, what to do in terms of...
Okay, what to do? We'll go for a break. When we come back, what should have been done, what should be done as far as this incident or accident is concerned. After the break, we'll be back with our live guest, former Ambassador Encomienda and FFCCCI George C. I hope I read that out correctly here on Agenda. Okay, thank you to that break. I've cooled down. So, George, Ambassador, please continue with your inputs. George, you wanted to give clarification.
We wanted to give a little perspective, not clarification because the facts manggagaling naman sa investigation and protocols will come from Ambassador. No?
Okay.
Pero for perspective, after some discussion, the Chinese vessels in general were already withdrawing from that area. So it would be very unlikely that why would they create an incident on purpose, but there may have been some situation. No? But we point out also that a lot of the pictures circulating, half of those pictures, even by major media groups, some of them are really showing a sunken boat that was from a typhoon picture and it's nothing to do with this one. So maybe it created more angst in the people. And we point out that relations are generally taken as a whole. If we take them in event to event, it's an impossible standard, especially for our countries. Now we take incidental, no? And the Chinese boats over the last 5 years has saved many Filipino situations, and Filipinos have saved Chinese and others. If we point out also that maybe
That's the
has not
code
been-
of the sea. You help each
Yes,
other.
yes. So meaning this is not indicative of policy or a government direction. It's
Okay.
something that happened. But if we're going to talk about incidents, somehow these people who keep bringing up and focusing on breaking diplomatic ties may not know that between 2016 and 2018, Malaysians have arrested several Filipinos. Some have been whipped, some have been beaten up. But they have made up. Malaysia has made up. But meaning there have been several incidents that are state-sponsored.
Okay.
No? And Indonesia has arrested thousands of Filipinos, more than 5,000 in the last 10 years, and jailed several of them for months, including blowing up Philippine boats, but not just Philippine boats, also Chinese, Vietnamese,
Yeah.
and so on. So we're saying that if we look also that in the Tubataha incident, the boat by a foreign power actually pointed guns at Filipinos and told them they cannot board. Even that. So we're not trying to say these incidents should be focused on. We're trying to say that these things happen, even if they look like policy, but we look beyond that and develop further relations and friendships. And maybe in terms of progress, as long as the direction, sometimes these things are going to happen.
So how should this situation been handled? Because I do crisis management, and I initially ignored the story. I said, oh, that's just another incident out there. They'll fix that within hours. It'll be settled. Someone will come out with the cash and everybody happy. But it's gotten out of proportion, involving the president, involving a cabinet cluster, etc. How should this situation been handled?
In the statute of the president, in fact, in this very roiled social condition, I would expect him to in fact, say, stay calm. Everybody stay calm. We're undertaking investigations, and we will inform you as things go. Then, at the same time, you already said that, some attention must be given to the victims. Now, that has been discussed, but my take there also is this, and I will lead to my own, way forward on this thing. Only 22 fishermen were involved. I'm not minimizing the numbers as numbers, but there have been incidents far bigger than involving 22 persons.
Yeah, but that's my question, Ambassador. Bakit lumaki ng ganito?
I would not. I have my own theory, or but I would not really dare to say it. But really, I don't know whether you're, in fact, leading me to.
No, I'm not leading you. I'm still trying to figure it out, because as far as I'm concerned, you're correct. The president did the right thing to say nothing. The next step should have been someone should have taken the lead on the matter.
Yes, I would agree to that, because I think the one big problem that caused all this confusion is that, as you said, too many voices from the government, discordant at that, coming into the picture.
Okay.
And that, in a way, in an unintended way perhaps than what the government intended, it has been not very well received.
Yeah.
Now, so I go to my next point, starting from what George said.
Yeah.
This will not be an isolated incident. There will be more and more incidents of this kind. Why? Okay, the South China Sea itself is one big fish pond, if I may say so. Indonesia's problem, in fact, is that Filipino fishermen are fishing in their archipelagic waters, not just in the exclusive economic zone. And that's why Indonesia has resorted to radical moves like sinking,
Boats.
intentionally sinking boats which are fishing illegally in their archipelagic waters.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
Actually, this month they have sunk more than, the last few months, more than 50 boats have been sunk.
Including 2 Filipino
Yes.
vessels, I think.
Okay.
And beyond that, so poaching happens all over the place. That's one thing. And what exacerbates the situation for us here is that everything that happens in the South China Sea is attributable to China in a bad way. Now, I really want to stop at this point about this discussion of this specific issue,
Okay.
and in fact take it as a, not even as a wake-up call, as a sign that probably we have to talk about moving on, but how?
Well, exactly how?
Yes, how? This is where I come in from, where I came from in the DFA. When the South China Sea disputes happened, I mean, became, shall we say, louder, we took two ways of trying to diffuse the situation and, in fact, solve the problem initially. One was the code of conduct that we tried to push under ASEAN China, later became declaration of conduct, and now back to code of conduct after 20 years. But I was head of an office, the Maritime and the Ocean Affairs Office in the Department of Foreign Affairs, who was trying to do, without saying it so, connecting it to the jurisdictional issues, we were doing management of the disputes through ocean governance cooperation.
Okay.
And we started...
George,
sorry.
George, you wanted to-
Maybe something that will lead to what he's discussing, because if we look at it historically and politically, this area, everyone is poaching on everybody's waters. We also had the incident where the Taiwanese boat, in a similar incident,
Yeah.
not policy, that the Philippine boat had shot at the Taiwanese boat and killed someone, but it did not become a cause for war or something like that. It was resolved. Because before the colonialists came, I mean, I don't want to go back that far, but before that, the whole South China Sea was a community. So everybody from their own nations, in fact, pointed out by Ambassador Encomienda and Art Valdez, that the sea was a place where we got united in and not divided. That's where everybody came together, traded goods, had parties, and there were no boundaries. But since the colonialists came and divided the world between them and created the boundaries, nagkaroon ng itong mga issues na ito, who owns what. And so a code, that cannot be reversed, so a code of governance needs to be put up, and the legalities and the way it has to be done. Si Ambassador ang makakaano, he has some theories on this from his
We need to
experience.
go for a break. When we come back, our final gap, quick inputs on how to fix the situation right now. And as you said, this is not the first, it's not going to be the last. What should we be doing, Ambassador? Agenda will be right back. Keep it here. Okay, down to 8 minutes, gentlemen. So what are your quick and easy solutions?
We have a problem in this country that a lot of selection of people are departmental based. No, when there are national issues, because I'm also involved in trade negotiations, it's very hard to negotiate between departments. We need a central negotiator, and the same in crisis management. Because many of these people appointed to these positions maybe are not trained in public relations or crisis management. There
Yes.
needs to be a trained spokesperson dealing with national issues. So that is one of the things that
I
can help.
think the problem there, George, is, as far as the cabinet members who are involved in this matter, I think half of the lot are trying to show their value and their worth to the president, and forgets the, who's in charge factor. So you're correct there. Who is supposed to be responsible as far as the negotiations or the dealing with the crisis is concerned?
Yes, the negotiations and the way the things are worded are so important during a time of crisis and emotions.
Like the word elision.
Collision.
Versus collision, because as you realized, it can also mean that it's an accidental collision.
Incident, yes.
Yeah.
Well, where it comes to diplomatic matters and negotiations, Ambassador here has had a chance to work codes of conduct and joint activities before maybe he can...
Yeah,
tell us
Ambassador,
more.
I'm worried by what you said. I hope you're not prophetic, but you said this is not the first time and it won't be the last time. How do we actually avoid this from happening? And because me, an ordinary person, I was thinking, magpalagay na lang kayo ng naval boat doon, or a Red Cross boat or something like that, so that in case something happens, there's someone to assist our Filipino fishermen. But I don't know, that might be a crazy idea.
Well, if you are looking at only at protection of the fishermen, okay, bring in the Coast Guard and the naval vessels, but in the overall and larger context, that will not solve anything.
Okay.
Because if, as stated earlier, the issue is fisheries. The South China Sea is surrounded by so many countries fishing that big sea and not, in fact, limited to their own territorial.
Yeah.
And in fact, on the matter of territory, before it was really just the 3-mile limit, then later 12-mile limit as the law of the sea evolved. But now there's that exclusive economic zone. But there is a special regime under the UNCLOS to govern a situation in a specialized way, such as the South China Sea. It is under so-called Part 9 of the UNCLOS, which speaks about enclosed, semi-enclosed sea. Now, under that part, UNCLOS Part 9, and it's just about 3 provisions of the whole UNCLOS, states bordering enclosed or semi-enclosed seas are compelled. I use the word compelled, although the wording in the UNCLOS is may. But considering the circumstances we are addressing, compulsion is there under UNCLOS that these countries bordering this enclosed or semi-enclosed sea must cooperate in ocean governance, which means protection of the marine environment, biodiversity, and fisheries, and other resources.
Forgive my being philosopher, but you know, experience has taught me that when there are laws, it is simply because there are people who violate them all the time. Now, you know, these fishermen, these boat captains, it's like, I don't see a line in the water. I don't care about your laws. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here to get my fish, and to hell with all of you.
That precisely describes the situation I'm trying to picture in regard to the South China Sea. Not only do the fishermen not know where the bounds are in the exclusive economic zone or the territorial sea, but worse, the fish do not
have no passports,
Exactly.
and there are no immigration for the fish.
So how do we conserve the fisheries, the marine environment, the biodiversity, and in fact other resources?
But can you get a country like China to comply?
Well, we have not taken that route, but I will tell you that, as George pointed out, we started in a small way with Vietnam during my time.
Yeah.
And if there's time, let me just quickly run through this. We called it the Joint Oceanographic Marine Scientific Research Expedition in the South China Sea. And that,
unfortunately, we don't have time. We're down to our last 2 minutes. But
last 2 minutes.
It actually worked.
It worked.
Okay.
In fact, between Vietnam and the Philippines, we said that we have covered our areas. We have to go either north or south.
Yeah.
North would be China. I was the one who approached China. China was very keen, immediately offering their research vessel, which is 4 times longer than our
So, in
research
other
vessels.
words, there is hope if the diplomatic team actually focused on the fisheries problem.
Yes.
There is hope if government officials actually understand crisis management and public relations. And as you mentioned off-cam, sorry, but you know, you said wala yung pataasan ng ihi. Okay, sorry, I mean, you know, but I think it would be helpful. You are a wise man, you have experience, and people in government need to understand this is not a pissing contest or a popularity contest. George, your final word.
Okay, I would like to say that there are technical equipments now that for just a few $1,000s a month, less than 5,000, will be able to locate vessels and through satellites and have instant communications or near instant communications. That's one way through regulations. But as you say, you know, we have to have a situation where people will not be focused on pissing contests, but that might not be possible in politics. But let's get over this incident. Let's take care of our people. Let's make our protests, and let's move forward and try to, you know, deal with this issue, not skirt around it, but still go back to focusing on our economy and doing the greater good for the greater number of people.
Can I say last word?
Yeah.
The direction I was talking about was only on managing the issues, not settling the jurisdictional aspects. So in international conference now, going into areas beyond national jurisdiction in regard to ocean governance, the term they use is PARC, P-A-R-K, park the jurisdictional issues because that's the more difficult to solve. Work on the governance and management of issues.
Cooperation.
Cooperation.
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen.